محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Tonight, inshallah, we'll talk about the mother of the believers, Khadija radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We will, inshallah, try to cover all the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the mothers of the believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَأَزْوَاجُهُ أُمَّهَاتُكُمْ, that the wives of the Prophet is your mothers. Nobody was allowed to marry after the Prophet ﷺ. وَلَا أَن تَنْكِحُوا أَزْوَاجَهُ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ أَبَدًا, because you cannot marry your mother. They are from the maharim, those who you cannot marry. So it's important to know about the family of the Prophet ﷺ, in particular, the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. If you remember the first session, we talked about who are the Ahlul Bayt. We mentioned the three different types of categories. So the Ummahat al-Mu'mineen, definitely from the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ, that Allah wants to take away the filth and the ugliness and the bad part of whatever from the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has purified them. وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. So that's why to say that the wives of the Prophet ﷺ were purified, the pure wives of the Prophet ﷺ, it's very good to say that, because the Quran, that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about the Ahlul Bayt. And the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, of course, they are from the Ahlul Bayt, from the family of the Prophet ﷺ. Khadija is the oldest, meaning that she was the first wife of the Prophet ﷺ. She is also the mother, as we mentioned, of all the children of the Prophet ﷺ, except for his son Ibrahim. His mother was Maria Qibtiyya from Egypt. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ, when he sent Abdullah bin Amr bin As and the people to Egypt, he said, be nice to them. Inna li nasaban wa sihra, that I have lineage, meaning that my son, his mother is from Egypt, and sihr, and also my ancestors, they go to Egypt. So the Prophet ﷺ, when he grew up in Mecca, he was part of the Quraysh clan, and he was a well-known person. Everybody respected him for his character and the way how he was. Also, Khadija radiallahu anha, whom she was married before to two individuals, one after the other, and they both passed away. She inherited a lot of wealth. She was from a very wealthy family. She had business, local and abroad. So she used to send caravans to buy and sell all the way to Sham, and he'll come. So she will have this business trade. After her husband passed away, she was still running the same business and she was functioning the way she was, but she was looking for someone who can take care of her business, someone who is trustworthy and someone who is also intelligent. These two components are very important to be a businessman. You have to be trustworthy, you have to be true, and also you have to be smart. You cannot use one without the other. So that's what she was looking for. And when she knew about the Prophet ﷺ, and she went to the Prophet ﷺ and asked him if you could take care of my business, to go to Sham and take care of the business and come back. Uh, and she said that I will offer you more than anybody else would offer. And she gave a good offer to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ accepted that, and he took the caravan and went to Sham. When he went to Sham, there was a servant that Khadija radiallahu anha had. His name was Maysara. She sent him with the Prophet ﷺ to serve the Prophet ﷺ, so he can fulfill his duties the way he should. So he joined the Prophet ﷺ, and he was with the Prophet ﷺ in the entire journey. Now in this journey, this is a plan from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah wanted to show the future of the Prophet ﷺ and Khadija radiallahu anha, that he saw many miracles. One of the things that he saw, he was sitting and a monk came to him. His name is Nastura. He came to him and he said, "Who is this person sitting under this tree?" And he said, he's from a very noble clan, he's from a noble tribe, so he's so on and so he's so and so. Then he said, "Does he have some reddishness in his eye?" So he asked a few signs. That was one of the signs he asked, and he said yes. And then he said to Maysara that only a prophet sat under that tree. It's a sign, whoever sits under that tree is a prophet. And we have the sign in our book that says that a prophet will come, the last prophet, he will sit under that tree. But he said, hold on, I want to also see how does he trade and how does he deal with people. So he followed the Prophet ﷺ, this rabbi, Nastura, to the marketplace, and the Prophet ﷺ was trading with this individual, and the person says to the Prophet, say by Allat and Uzza, in business they used to have a habit of taking an oath. So he said that I do not take an oath on these two idols. Anything else I would do it. And that Rahib said, wow, this is the Prophet. And then he told Maysara that make sure you take care of him because he will have a lot of enemies. The other sign that Maysara saw, that when the Prophet ﷺ was traveling on a camel, a cloud will always follow him and give him shade throughout the journey. And he saw many, many miracles. He saw that the camel or the horse, it's not mentioned what exactly the Prophet ﷺ was riding, but wherever that beast will put his foot, if it was a rock, the rock will become soft, like sand. So it would not hurt the animal. And he saw all these miracles. And now when he comes back, he tells Khadija that I saw all these things, and he tells the whole story to Khadija radiallahu anha. Now, Khadija radiallahu anha, she's also from a very noble family. Let's look at her lineage. She combines with the Prophet ﷺ and his ancestry with Qusay. Qusay is the person who actually combined Banu Hashim. So her lineage goes Khadija, the daughter of Khuwaylid, the son of Abdul Uzza, the son of Qusay. Right? The fourth grandfather, she meets with the Prophet ﷺ. Al-Asadiyya. Her mother's name is Fatima bint Zaida bin Al-Asam, the son of Asam, from Banu Amir, the son of Lu'ay, and that's where, from her mother's side, she meets the Prophet ﷺ in Lu'ay bin Ghalib. So she is from a noble family. We can tell that she's from the same clan. However, they separate after 2-3 generations. They become a smaller clan. So she is wealthy. She has an honor and dignity within the community. She is very established. She's smart because she's a businesswoman. So she has a state, and now she gets, and back then it was very easy for a person to remarry again, even if he had children, for men and for women, both equally. There were many people that gave proposal of themselves to Khadija radiallahu anha, and every time she just refused. She just didn't want to. She never thought of that. But when she came to know about the Prophet ﷺ and she heard these miracles, there's two narrations. One that she herself went to the Prophet ﷺ and proposed herself in marriage. And according to the other narration, she sent another lady to go and speak to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ went and spoke to his uncles, Abu Talib and Hamza radiallahu anhu, and the other leaders of the clan. And that was kind of that tradition that the elders of the clans and the tribes, they will deal with this among each other. So they come and meet and they talk about this proposal, and Abu Talib stands up and he gives, and also Hamza, both of them, because Abu Talib, he's the eldest, Hamza was the younger one. He was very close to the age of the Prophet ﷺ. So first he spoke and he gave the idea, talked to the people, and then Abu Talib came and he said, I agree with this proposal, and I marry Muhammad with Khadija with the mahar of 400, at that time, 480 dinar. That's a lot of money. However, that's from the Prophet ﷺ's family side. Now from Khadija, from her side, her cousin, Waraqa bin Nawfal, whose father, they are paternal, from the paternal side. Their fathers are brothers. So Nawfal is the uncle of Khadija radiallahu anha, and Nawfal was her cousin. He stood up and he was a very well-respected person, and he was much older in age, as we'll see that he died just before the Prophet ﷺ became, actually right after the Prophet ﷺ became a prophet, before he announced his prophethood. Now, became a prophet, announced his prophethood. He stood up and he said, this match, he gave a whole khutbah and he said, this is a perfect match, the nobility of Khadija and the nobility of this man. And he said that Khadija will never find a better fine man like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he suggested the mahar would be 20 camels. Some scholars say that it was one of them. Some scholars say it's possible that both happened. In one narration, it says that there were 12 uqiyah of gold. And it's possible that the uncle gave some, he gave on his own, and the Prophet ﷺ gave that wealth on his own, or the camels on his own. So whatever that was, the marriage happened, and they lived together. Now they lived, she died in about 9 years after the Prophet ﷺ's prophethood, meaning that at the 10th of Nubuwah, it was called the Am al-Huzn when she died, and Abu Talib as well, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. These two were the greatest supporters of the Prophet ﷺ. So she knew all the signs, and she was assuming that he one day will become a prophet, and she had that faith, and that faith it manifests when the Prophet ﷺ goes to Hira, and he does those rituals, and he takes those time off from people, and he goes into the retreats in Hira. And then one night when he comes back and he's shivering and he says, cover me, and Khadija radiallahu anha covers the Prophet ﷺ with a blanket, and he's still shivering, and he tells what happened. Now the first thing that occurs to her mind, that this is it, this is what I was looking for the past 15 years, because the Prophet ﷺ was 25 and she was at the age of 40 when they got married, and the Prophet ﷺ is now 40 and she is 55 years old. She says to the Prophet ﷺ, I want to take you to my cousin. He also knew the other scriptures, like the Torah and the Injil, and he was a very knowledgeable person. And then she takes him to Waraqa, and he tells her, and she says to the Prophet, she gives the whole story, and then Waraqa says, I want to hear from you what happened. So he asks the Prophet and he gives all the detail, and he says, that's the same angel that came to the previous prophets, that came for the revelation, and you are the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it confirms all the signs. And then he says on an interesting point, the scholars say that there were only 3 people that came in the past and believed in the Prophet ﷺ, and Waraqa bin Nawfal was one of them. He says that your people, one day they will drive you out of your town. And I wish to live to that time, and I wish that I was also young I was young at that time, and I would help you. Ya laytani shab'an. I wish that I was young and I could help you. But he gave, and then the Prophet ﷺ said that, wow, this is a total different picture. Until now, everybody loves me, everybody appreciates me, and know who I am. Are they going to drive me out of town? He said, yes, they will. So he gave these predictions to the Prophet ﷺ, and he believed, of course, in the Prophet ﷺ. But he died shortly after that. She said to the Prophet ﷺ some very interesting points. She did not say that you are, of course, the Prophet ﷺ from a noble family, he is sadiq and ameen and all those good qualities, but she indicated to something that is extraordinary to the Prophet ﷺ, that he said, you are the ones who take care of orphans, you take care of the widows, you take care of the less fortunate people, and the people who are afflicted with problems and difficulties. These 4 things Khadija radiallahu anha said to the Prophet ﷺ. He said that you are those people, you are from one of those people, and you are that person who does always good to people. You should have, so that words, it just gave the Prophet ﷺ so much hope and so much comfort. And it was the precise and the perfect words for the Prophet ﷺ at that time to hear from his wife. And she is, according to most scholars, she is the first one to believe in the Prophet ﷺ. The first one. The first child from the children was his cousin Ali radiallahu anhu. There was a story that is mentioned in the seerah that once the Prophet ﷺ, he used to go for, during Hajj, he used to go to Mina and Arafat and those places and meet people. So that was the early days, and this person, he is a traveler, he comes over there for the first time, and he's sitting in his tent, and he's looking outside, and he sees someone coming and praying. He stands up and prays, and something interesting, he looks at him, what's going on, what is he doing? And because the Prophet ﷺ was given the prayer in the early days, it was just not the 5 daily prayers. According to some scholars, there were 2 prayers that the Prophet ﷺ was praying, in the morning and in the evening. So it was one of those prayers that he was praying, and then he sees a lady come out and joins the Prophet ﷺ in prayer. And then he sees a child come out and joins the Prophet ﷺ in prayer. And just these 3 people are praying. Goes into ruku, goes in sajda, and comes up and is doing all this movement. And then this guy asks his people, who is this man, and what is he doing? And then he said, this is so and so, and this is his wife, and that's his cousin. So these were the first comers to Islam, and from the male adults was, of course, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq anhu. These people, without any hesitation, without any question, without any doubt, without, maybe I'll think it over, without any hesitation, they believed in the Prophet ﷺ. And that fadila and that virtue of them is very significant. We talked about all of their children from Khadija radiallahu anha. She gave birth to all of the children of the Prophet ﷺ except for Ibrahim. We talked about all of them. The first one was Ibrahim. The last one was Fatima radiallahu anha, who was it's interesting that the mother and the daughter, both are from one of the four that the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made them the best of all the women who came before and after. Maryam bint Imran, right? The mother of Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, and Imra'atu Asiya, Asiya Imra'atu Fir'aun, the wife of Fir'aun, Asiya, and Khadija, Fatima, radiallahu anhuma. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave this blessing within the immediate family of Khadija radiallahu anha, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave these two virtues to both mother and daughter. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was very loyal, very loving to Khadija radiallahu anha. After she passed away in 10th of Hijrah and was buried in Al-Ma'la. Her grave is known there in Mecca. The Prophet ﷺ will always, he always kept that love alive in his heart. That at one point, the Prophet ﷺ was praising Khadija radiallahu anha, and Aisha radiallahu anha was hearing all of this, and he said, "You still remember that old lady?" And the Prophet ﷺ got angry. And the riwayat, it's mentioned that later on the Prophet ﷺ resolved the issue, and he said, "Sorry, I was very angry. You were angry and I was also angry. Both, we had our reasons, and it was right." So because it's natural to feel that way. But one thing that the Prophet ﷺ said, "Ruziqtu hubbaha," that I was given by Allah as a rizq, her love. I was given her love. The love that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me was a gift to me. And that's why I have to hold on to it. He would, even after she passed away, he will still kind of meet and interact with her friends as if she was still around. So like Khadija would send gifts to her friends. After she passed away, the Prophet ﷺ will keep sending gifts to Khadija's friends. He will sometimes slaughter a sheep and will send meat to all the friends of Khadija radiallahu anha. I think that's good enough. We've already passed the time. I think this is, inshallah, good enough for us to know about Khadija radiallahu anha. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with her. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put nur in her grave. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with all of her family and her descendants. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.